Video killed a radio star. Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Dark Side of the Kitchen. I'm your host, Noel Keane, and just a big thank you to everybody who has listened to a podcast, watched the podcast, given a like, a comment, a share. Really appreciate you. And of course, I have my big mug of tea above the size of my head, It's Tuesday morning. It's late morning. It's nearly afternoon, actually. Off today. I'm actually on holidays this week, but decided to follow up this one. So this one is called The Chef You Became, because the chef you started out as, or you weren't a chef when you started out. We all know my thoughts on that one. And who you became are two very, very different people. Very, very, very. If you were to stop a minute and go back to whenever you entered the kitchen first, let's say 18 for the sake of argument, and think about then where you thought you were going, where you wanted to be, and the type of chef you thought you'd be. How far off are you? You know what I mean? I was watching a thing this morning on the YouTube, a 10 or 15 minute thing. It was about a chef. He had in the States, he had a very fine dining restaurant, Michelin listed. Not sure if he had a star or just listed, but either way, wow, great achievement, okay? And he closed it and opened up a comfort food place. Now, his comfort food looks amazing. I'm actually going to go back and rewatch it because I was having a bit of brunch for myself because I didn't want breakfast this morning. It's not close enough for lunch, so I made myself a bit of brunch. Shoot me. And I want to go back and look at it again because it was very interesting, and I was kind of half in and out of it because I'd taken a call in the middle of it and I was eating and not paying attention. But I did get the premise of it, which was he decided that's not where he wanted to end up in that fine dining realm. So he closed his restaurant, renovated it, and reopened it as more of a comfort style bistro local place rather than, in his words, a place you go once a year. I found that interesting, and it got me to thinking of, when you were that young raw commie, and what is it you wanted to become? Like for some, it was the stars, it was the working or head chef of 3 Michelin star restaurants. That's rarefied air that most of us could never attain to anyway, but it's not the point. You can dream. So let me know in the comments below, where did you, how far out are you from where you thought you'd be or wanted to be, because the chef you became, it's what experience teaches you that nobody can, and like behind every kitchen, there's a story. And this is one of them. And there's a million stories, and they're all worth listening to. When you first walked into that professional kitchen, you thought you knew what becoming a chef meant. You think it's about the food, the knife skills, the speed, the pressure, the perfect plate, which doesn't exist. You think being a great chef means being the person with all the answers. And then the years pass. And somewhere along the way, you realize you were wrong. Very wrong. Because becoming a chef isn't about cooking, it's about people. It's about judgment. It's about knowing when to speak, but when to listen. When to push somebody, when to give them the extra 5 minutes. And I suppose, perhaps most importantly, it's realizing you don't have all the answers. You never did. And the guys you looked up to that taught you, they never had them either. It didn't make you bad, it doesn't make them bad. But welcome to the Dark Side of the Kitchen. And before we get into it, if you're enjoying Dark Side of the Kitchen, drop me a like, a follow, subscribe, and comment. Get involved. As I said, if anybody wants to come on and do an interview, drop me a line. Bad time of year, yes, so hopefully in the winter we'll get some of that done. It genuinely helps out the podcast. It helps me reach more people. So, I want you to imagine something. your mind's eye. Imagine you could sit down with yourself on the very first day you were in a kitchen. The young chef, the nervous chef, the ambitious chef, the chef who thought they knew exactly where they were going. What would you tell them? Because that's what we're going to talk about. The chef you became. When you're young in the industry, you want to prove yourself. Of course you do. Oh, some good tea. There's an art to a proper cup of tea. I don't care what anybody fucking says. Good tea. Bad tea's terrible. Good tea is good tea. Coffee drinkers don't get it. Tea drinkers do. Enough said. We'll do an episode on that someday. Like, you want people to know you're good. You want to be the fastest on the section. You want the chef to notice you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not at all. Ambition is important. Sometimes we confuse good at the job with being good at being a chef. They're two different things. You can cook beautifully and you can still be a terrible leader. You can have extraordinary technical skills and be incapable of developing another chef. You can run a perfect service and leave people exhausted and demoralized behind you. Experience teaches you that plate is only part of the job. I think some of that from today is places suffering with lack of chefs, understaffed as well, leads to people being promoted too fast. Not necessarily too fast, but not getting the training along the way. So then you end up with senior chefs incapable of doing the other parts of the job. Some of them can't do even the cooking part of the job, let's be honest about it. The amount of places that are now buying in the vast majority of stuff pre-done. It's rampant everywhere. Went to get something to eat the other night because I was off. Looked at the menu, and I knew everything in that menu, or the vast majority of that menu, was bought in. I didn't eat there. I wasn't looking for anything fancy, but still, that's where we're going. It's all cooking by numbers, you know. It's not a good thing, you know. And this is where I want to bring my own experience into the conversation. You know, when I think back at the younger version of myself, the things you worried about, you know, the things you thought were important back then, the chefs you admired, the things you were different. You know, you were trying to prove yourself, desperate to prove yourself even, you know. And contrast that to where you are now. Because one of the strangest things about getting older in the industry is realizing some of the things you once thought were incredibly important, they weren't, you know. And some of the things you didn't understand at all eventually become everything, you know. I was lucky enough, and I've said this many, many times, I've worked under some talented chefs, but who were also really, really good people, you know, and I'm glad I did. I went abroad, worked under some chefs that were absolutely talented and had all the accolades and were absolute cunts, but I worked under some very good people that I think set the foundation for where and who I became as a chef. And I'm very thankful for that. Was I a great little commie? No. Made the same mistakes everybody made. I worked hard though. I've always said, I came out of college, did the first year in college, and like I was in the middle of the pack, talent-wise. There was far, far more talented chefs than me there. And I became friends with chefs when I came out into the industry, and loads of them were far more talented than me. We're not in the same field, but what I did have over all of them work ethic. I would outwork them all. Just big ignorance, really. I knew they were better. I knew they were more talented, but I knew I could learn it, and I could push myself and work harder and do more. I did, and I've had a good career. And there was mistakes along the way. Spoke about that in the last episode. Lots of them. We make mistakes all the time. My biggest one was a job I took many moons ago. Left a place that I shouldn't have left to go to a place I shouldn't have gone. It was a huge mistake, and I was lucky enough that I got into another very good place afterwards, but I made other mistakes along the road. Of course I have. I left one or two places, maybe for the wrong reasons. Stayed in a couple of places that I should have left much quicker. But that's the story of everybody's career. But for most places I worked, most of them, I would still be on relative talking terms with people. There's one or two that, there's one, and I know a bit later, somebody rang them for a reference on me. They slated me. I'd done 4.5 years with them. I gave them loads of notice, like tons, like not 2 or 3 weeks, we're talking months. And just slated me afterwards, telling me I told them I was a terrible chef. I wasn't there very long. They got rid of me very quickly. 4.5 years there. And that's going to happen. And then there's others that I would still to this day talk to if I met. And some I do meet now and again and always have, And there's some places where I go back and eat there, So, and we'll all have those. But I'm lucky enough that I have fallen out with very, very few. Very few. 1 or 2 in my entire career. So, that I'm aware of. There's probably somebody else going, he's a right cunt. There are chefs who hate me. So be it. There's plenty who would respect and like me. Okay? Appreciate the ones that respect and like me. The ones that don't, I will never lose an ounce of sleep over it, I made my decisions as I made them. They are what they are, and they were about me and not you. And, I don't care. I will say experience changes your definition of success. What you thought was success as an 18-year-old chef was either chef owner of a restaurant, having some stars, whatever that was. Success is different. For some people, success is having millions of quid. And no matter what they do to get it, it justifies getting it. And that's fine. If that's what you think success is, go for it. For others, it's a completely different kettle of fish. So success is personal. It's not linear. It's very much scale, When you're starting out, success can be very, very simple. More responsibility, more money, work in a better restaurant, a better title, awards, recognition, maybe running your own kitchen, maybe your own restaurant, But eventually you'll start measuring success differently. As a young chef, you're trained to get promoted. And I said, maybe mentioning opening your own restaurant in the end. Maybe you trained a young chef who went on and opened up his own restaurant. Some people, that's the success, is to see the success of the ones you trained to become head chefs, own their own places, to make their own bones. To some people, that's success, rightly so. I think that's the greatest success. And I don't think that's just for kitchens, but I just think in life, those that came in under you, those you trained, they went on to very good things. That's a generational success that you're having. Former colleagues reaching out to you just to say hi because they remember you, they remember how good you were, what you did, or something you helped them with. Different kind of success. But I pull this off of Emerald Publishing. Research into chef competencies backs up something experienced chefs often discover themselves. Technical cooking ability is only part of an effective chef. Leadership, management, emotional intelligence are also important components for a professional kitchen leader. That's from chefs. That's not a journalistic piece. That is a quote from chefs. That's a huge shift. Because eventually your job simply isn't food anymore, is it? It's to create an environment where other people can make great food. And you'd often hear, I think it was Richard Branson, said, and I didn't Google this, but if somebody like that said, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the one that puts everybody in the right place, It's one of the hardest lessons a chef has to learn is you don't have to know everything. In fact, if you're the head chef and you're always the smartest person in the room, you have a problem. Because your job is to build a team that brings different strengths to the table. If you know more than your pastry chef about pastry, you have the wrong pastry chef or you have the wrong mindset. You have a sous chef who's on point, can see problem before you do, and sort it without you ever knowing. I've had some great parts of dishes done by young commies. I used to do it. I've done it multiple times down the years where I would do special menus for whatever. We did one for Vegtopia, and it was an 8-course tasting menu. I had 4 chefs in my kitchen. I did no dish. They all did 2, including the 2. One was a 3rd-year commie, one was a 2nd-year commie. The other was the sous. I did no dish. And the other was a chef de partie. I did no dish. They did 2 each for us. They made them, and I went through pointers and corrected a few bits for them, of course. I didn't do the dishes for them. I did no dish for that menu. And that night when people were applauding it, I told them, I'd cook a damn thing of it. I did nothing. I didn't come up with the dish. I didn't create the dish. I tweaked it, but on the night I didn't cook it either. They did. Simple as that. It was Dale and Gary, Jallo, Luke, missing one. Paul Cotter. They came up with the dishes, not me. And if you're the leader of the kitchen, if you're the head chef, you shouldn't be threatened by that. You should be encouraging it. You should be encouraging people to take responsibility off of you, to take ownership. And I always do. Makes your life fucking easier. You've got a guy who's head of a section. Make him responsible for the section. Every element of it, It's a funny thing because I was watching a couple of things recently on the industry and how it's changing, and it is changing. We're saying that some of the larger organizations, now I don't recall exactly which companies they said, so I'm not going to get into it. They were all hospitality based. We're now putting a greater emphasis on developing people rather than simply filling the position. So developing people up into that position. And this is the new thinking with hospitality is to develop people into the positions that are becoming available. Yeah, we were doing that 20 and 30 years ago. It's called fucking training. You hired people with no experience. They joined your kitchen. You trained them up. And they filled the positions that you went up. and now they've done studies to figure this the fuck out. Come on. Fuck off. It's the Institute of Hospitality that did this. I shit you not. It highlights mentoring, professional development, and continuing professional development as part of its support for hospitality professionals. That is a straight quote from them. It's called fucking training. We've been doing it for a millennia. Somebody did a study on this. Shit you not. And they have quoted positive examples within the industry. This I'm reading off of their thing. For example, Back to Story Ireland recently relaunched its Chef Academy with a focus on professional development, Irish products, produce, sustainability, and skills development. Seriously. I shit you not. It finishes it off by saying that's important because if we want better chefs tomorrow, we have to invest in them today. They're not fucking training, no? Is that not what we've been doing for a millennia? In every aspect of life that's ever existed. Ever. From the caveman training his son how to throw a fucking spear. That's not exactly what it is. When you hire somebody that hasn't a fucking clue, comes in off the street, you invest in them. You invest time, energy, money. You pay them. Is that not investing in their professional development? And if not, please somebody explain it to me. Use crayons, because obviously I'm too fucking simple, you know? But here's what I think experience, or how experience, I suppose, really changes you. When you're younger, you obsess over the perfect plate. Now, you wonder, does the person cooking it understand why it works? You know, might care more about whether the team gets home safely, whether someone is learning, if somebody's not happy, you know, whether the kitchen is sustainable. Anybody that knows me knows I'm big into running sustainable kitchens to whatever degree it can be done. And people have to have a life outside of it, you know. And that's not lowering standards. It's understanding the bigger picture. Whether that place is going to 4-day weeks or shorter days or whatever it is that works, because no one thing will work for every place. But every place is finding their own path, you know. So here's something I'd really like you to answer. So if you're still listening at this point, I want an answer. If you could go back and speak to yourself first day hospitality, what would you say? Would you tell yourself to work harder? Would you tell yourself to slow down, listen more, have more confidence, not take it personally? Tell me in the comments, you know, what's that magic line you would drop to yourself? And of course, if you're enjoying this episode, give me a like, give me a follow, subscribe, drop a comment. Because the best advice in hospitality comes from people in hospitality who've walked the road. Because at this point in your life, you've walked that road, but at one stage you stepped on it for the first time. And I know some people would say, oh, if I could go back and tell myself, I'd tell myself, do something else, go back to school, blah, blah. I can tell you hand on heart, if I could go back when I was 17, stepping foot in the kitchen the first time, I'd fucking do it all again. Simple as that, I'd do it all again. wouldn't be where I am today. You know, I would be a different person. I'm not sure I want to be a different person. You know, cantankerous as the fuck I am, I like me. So, if I could go back, I know some people will drop in the comments, if I could go back, I would tell myself, you know, do something else. Fine. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Like, nobody becomes a good or a great chef. You know, I'm not a great chef. I'm decent, you know. But there's always someone, a mentor, a head chef, a colleague, an apprentice that taught you patience, a difficult person taught you how to lead, a customer who reminded you why hospitality matters. We collect these people throughout our career. We collect these moments. And I've thankfully had a load of them, you know. I mean, some of these people stay with us for years. Some disappear after one season, but all of them leave behind something, a technique, a lesson, a warning, a piece of wisdom, sometimes a scar. And eventually those experiences become part of the chef you became. You know? I mean, you carry some people with you. This is another place for your own stories, you know? On the pass, if you're listening to this and you're what, 20, 25, and you're working your way up, I want to tell you something. Don't put too much of a hurry on becoming the finished product. Because you won't. None of us do. You're going to change. Your priorities are going to change. Your cooking will change. Your leadership will definitely change. Your ideas of success will change. And that's okay. Learn, listen, make mistakes. Ask questions, watch people. And don't be afraid to change your mind. The chef you are today doesn't have to be the chef you're going to be in 10 years. And that's the point. You know? If I could go back to myself, what would I tell myself? Learn from everyone. Don't mistake shouting for leadership. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Look after your people, look after your health. Enjoy the moments you're in. And understand your career is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon. And I'd also tell myself something else. You're going to meet some incredible people. Don't be so busy trying to get ahead that you forget to enjoy the journey with them. You know? You spend the first part of your career trying to become a chef. Eventually you realize the real achievement is helping other people become chefs, not, you know? So before we go, time for tonight's takeaway. Experience isn't simply knowing more recipes. It isn't about having cooked more meals. And it isn't measured by how many services you've survived. Experience is knowing when to listen, when to lead, when to step back, when to say, hey, cat, the other way. So the cat came in and took a swipe at me because I'm not playing with it. Oh, I swear to God, I'm not playing with him. Yeah, anyway. The chef you become isn't defined by the person you were at the start. It's defined by everything you learn along the way and the people you meet along the way and what you take from them. I threw the ball and I was blaming the ball. Stop becoming Stop worrying about being the person everybody notices. Start becoming the person who helps everybody else grow, because that will help you. This is an episode that made you think about your own journey. I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments. And don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. I'm Noel. This is Dark Side of the Kitchen. Behind every kitchen, there's a story. This is one of them. And until next time, look after your guests, look after your team, and above all, look after yourself.